Good Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, critical decision in the fight against the coronavirus. An FDA panel set to determine whether to back a booster dose of Pfizer's COVID vaccine. The new evidence being considered today, plus what the outcome could mean for you and your family. On alert, the National Guard standing by at the U.S. Capitol ahead of the Justice for J6 rally planned for this weekend. The preparations underway to prevent a repeat of the insurrection. Where is Gabby? Family and friends pleading for answers after a woman goes missing during a road trip with her fiancé, who has been told to stay quiet by his attorney.
They know that the Landrys know where their daughter is, and they will not tell them. That's infuriating.
What we're learning about the days leading up to her disappearance, including newly released body cam video of a run-in with the police. And here come the holidays. It may still be summer, but with just 99 days to go, the Christmas shopping season has already begun. We'll tell you why it could take much longer to cross off your list this year. That I believe, because just about everything seems to be sold out or delayed, all that kind of stuff. But can you believe it's 99 days?
I know. You must be excited.
I am. I love Christmas.
I know. I feel like you have like a 99-day advent calendar or something like that.
Yeah, my countdown started. Every night at home, I put on a sweater. No, we will do a lot of fun Christmas stuff here, though, this year. We begin, though, today with the hotly debated Pfizer COVID vaccine booster shot.
Yeah, that's right. An FDA advisory committee is meeting this morning and is expected to vote today on whether the highly anticipated third vaccine dose is safe and necessary. While the vote is not binding, the FDA usually follows the recommendation set forth by the committee. Both President Biden and Dr. Fauci say it's time for a third dose, pointing to data from Pfizer that suggests the vaccine's effectiveness wanes after 6 months. Pfizer has also been leaning on studies from Israel that indicate third doses are successful in protecting against COVID. But the FDA released a public analysis of Pfizer's booster data earlier this week, only fueling the debate over the need for boosters. The organization says, quote, overall data indicate that currently U.S. licensed or authorized COVID-19 vaccines still afford protection against severe COVID-19 disease and death in the United States. If the committee does move forward with the booster shots, it's then up to the CDC to decide who should receive a third dose and when. We're covering this big story from every angle this morning. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar and MSNBC senior national correspondent Chris Jansing are both standing by. First, let's go to NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster, who's outside an Ochsner Health facility in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Shaq, how is that facility preparing for the possibility of giving out booster shots? Any concern there won't be enough shots to go around?
Good morning, Joe. Well, that's a question I put to medical officials here at this hospital during a briefing yesterday. And I'll tell you, they are echoing what I'm hearing from state officials as well, which is that they have the supply. This is not a supply issue that we talked about in the first few months of this rollout. They say that the supply of vaccines is there, and they're just watching the FDA extremely closely. Listen to what the chief medical officer told me yesterday.
Third shot for the immunocompromised patients has been going well. We've been able to meet those needs. We've got the supply to meet the needs right now. We have put in the process ready to go whenever we get that guidance from the FDA and the CDC.
You really get the sense that many of these local health providers are watching what the FDA, then the CDC, ultimately have to say. We know that the administration set that September 20th date on the calendar, but obviously they're waiting for that official approval.
So, Shaq, we know this hospital has already been giving out booster shots to immunocompromised patients for about a month now. How has that program been going, and does it give us any insight into how the state will handle boosters for the general population?
Yeah, they say it's been going well. What they did say is that they saw an initial surge when they first thought about, or when they first opened up the possibility for folks to come and get that booster shot, but it wasn't anything significant. Out of the 2 million or so people here in this state that are fully vaccinated, only about 28,000 booster shots have been handed out, and that's something that you're seeing nationwide. What we did learn from the data there, though, is that we can get a sense of who is going to get those shots. Out of 7 in every 10 patients that come and get a booster shot, 7 out of every 10 of them are 60 or older. So you really get a sense it's for the older population. Those are the folks who have really been aggressive about getting that third dose, Joe.
Pattern we've been seeing throughout the vaccination effort this year. Now, state health officials say they're seeing some encouraging numbers from hospitals there. We know we've been following Louisiana for several weeks now and the struggles they've had. Do these new numbers suggest that COVID cases might actually be falling there?
That's exactly right. And look, this is good news. You look at cases, you look at hospitalizations, they are down. If you look at vaccinations, they have been up. When you compare it to a month ago and what this state was dealing with what they say was their fourth surge of this pandemic, driven by the Delta variant. So they are looking at that. They're saying it's encouraging, but they're not letting down their guard. One of the questions I also asked at the briefing was, what do they attribute that success to? Listen to what they said.
The timing of the beginning of the decline matches up a couple of weeks, I believe, after maybe between 2 and 3 weeks after the mask mandate went into place. I think this fourth surge also made a lot of people, as bad as it was, I think it made people rethink vaccinations. So we began to increase our vaccinations across the system and across the state. And I think people began to take a little more caution with some of the guidance that was given from local and state governments. So I think that's what's done it.
The hospital says they have been dealing with multiple issues, of course, not just the pandemic, but also Hurricane Ida and the recovery from that. One point that we heard during that briefing yesterday was that they are now rescheduling some of the thousands of surgeries that were delayed with the hurricane and that were delayed and pushed off with that COVID surge. Again, it's a good news, a good sign, a good indicator here in the state of Louisiana. Joe?
Of course, masks and vaccines, it sounds like, are part of the reason they're seeing a turnaround there. All right, Shaq, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Let's now bring in our friend, Dr. Natalie Azar, for more. Dr. Azar, thank you for being with us on this Friday morning. So let's, of course, start with the FDA Advisory Committee meeting today to discuss the Pfizer booster shots. First, just tell me what you expect to hear from the committee today and if there's anything specific that you're looking out for.
Sure, yes. Well, first of all, I'm expecting complete and total transparency, and I think they need to be incredibly forthcoming with the data that they are analyzing. Even just this last week, we've heard about UK data and Pfizer data and the Israeli data. I really would like to see all of that really dissected so that when they explain their decision to approve or not approve a booster, we understand that the balance of the evidence really is or isn't in favor of boosting the general population. Remember, this was never about subsets of the population who are at risk. This is about you and I and everybody going out and rolling up our sleeves to get a booster. And remember, they're going to be looking at lab data, observational data, clinical data. And I really think the question is there harm in doing it or harm in not doing it? The harm in not doing it is they've got the lens looking forward to Israel and saying, look, immunity wanes and we see severe disease in the vaccinated. But again, is that young, healthy people? Is that older people? And is there harm in doing it? Will we see more cases of myocarditis? Is there an interval that we should be waiting for a little bit longer, sort of to induce the most maximal vaccine response? I can tell you I have a lot of questions. Thank goodness for AirPods, because I have to be listening to this committee meeting all day long while also living my life.
Well, we can't wait to then get your breakdown next week, I'm sure. So, Doctor, there's been so much debate, though. You just kind of laid out the reasons why there are, two sides to this and we need to investigate it. But even here on this show, we've heard doctors say, no, we should just be focused on getting those first doses out. And other people who say, if we know it helps, let's do it. So what should we be thinking about here in terms of those initial doses versus the third dose and the need to still get those to people? And then also, should this FDA Advisory Committee say, yes, let's do that third shot? Is this going to become part of the COVID vaccine regimen going forward? Is this a 3-dose vaccine?
Right. And that is, the unfortunate thing about the latter part of your question, Savannah, is that, we don't really have the luxury of time to make that decision in the most scientific way. I always refer to the MMR schedule for kids. I can't remember off the top of my head now, it's been so long, but 6 months, 18 months, 4 years, there was a reason that they timed it a certain way, and so for the virologists and immunologists out there, it's been very frustrating to just go ahead and offer these third doses to individuals who may very well still have enough immunity to prevent severe disease. And then, of course, that brings the question to, are we trying to really completely, carpet bomb this virus? And the question is important. Now, look, if you and I get the sniffles, will that affect us adversely? No. But can we transmit it to others who could have a more severe outcome? And that really changes the whole conversation about what exactly we're trying to achieve. Those are the kinds of, granular detail that I'm hoping that we get some, insight on. And remember, even if the FDA approves it, it's only for Pfizer. It's not for Moderna, not for J&J. And then we have the 2-day CDC meeting next week that I think is really going to give us much more clarity on who exactly will be eligible for this. This is not people, storming the vaccination sites on Monday and getting a Moderna shot. That's not how this is going to play out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think many people, you said it, are seeking clarity on this, no matter which shot you got. All right, Dr. Natalie Azar, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
On the ground, the scene in states like North Carolina has gone from bad to worse when it comes to COVID. In Raleigh, triage tents have gone up outside of Rex Hospital to deal with the surge of COVID patients there. As doctors and nurses deal with the highest caseload since the early days of the pandemic. MSNBC senior national correspondent Chris Jansing is live outside of Rex Hospital in Raleigh. So, Chris, give us a sense of what you're seeing there. How bad is the situation getting, and how has the staff been dealing with this surge in cases?
Yeah, the number of deaths here is really on the rise. This is a statewide problem. And what that tells you is what's underlying that. And what's underlying it is that the patients who are coming here, and you know this, they are sicker. Delta is causing patients to be sicker. When you add to that the number of people who put off getting care for serious illness and now are coming in and they are sicker as well, in many cases, the amount of time people are spending here is twice what they might have spent before the Delta surge. You can see those tents that have been set up behind me. Later today, they're going to actually be putting equipment in there. They're to take people out of the ER. There are so many people who are waiting and waiting longer to get assigned hospital rooms. You add to that that this is a major trauma center here, and people in outlying areas, this is the place that they would come to get help if they're very sick with COVID or any other illness. So they're having to take those patients as well. Take a listen to the head of the hospital here, what she told me about the strain this is putting on the hospital and its people in particular.
You feel overworked. You're dealing with all of that emotional strain of very sick patients, and then the behavioral health crisis continues to escalate. At some point, people just feel like they cannot continue. We did have some of our critical care nurses leave to become travelers, and the pay, they get paid better than some of the physicians, so it's hard to pass that up.
Staff retention, obviously very difficult when you have nurses who can make $6,000 a month if they're willing to travel. So one big development here is they were expecting to open a satellite hospital in Holly Springs. 40% of the staff here was scheduled to go. Plus, they hired new staff there so that people wouldn't have to travel so far. But because of the number of patients they have here, they're not going to be able to open that hospital for at least a couple of months, which means the strain here is going to continue, and they may be needing those tents to start to process people or as a waiting room here. Joe?
I mean, Chris, these healthcare workers have been dealing with COVID for more than 18 months now. They saw cases level off. Now they're seeing this surge again. How is that affecting the morale there?
Well, I think the morale for the people who are here, the way they describe it, and I've heard this at other hospitals I've been to, is that they've become a team. They've become closer than they ever have. That does not in any way minimize the stress that they're feeling. And it was kind of startling to me, who's been covering this throughout the 18 months, to talk to the head of the ER here. And I said, you know, there are folks at a very high level who are saying this may be our last surge. We may be seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Do you think that's happening? Are we toward the end of this? Listen to what he told me.
Most of us now feel like this process is never going to go away. We're going to continue to see these surges until we can get a huge percent of the population vaccinated. We are going to ride this.
What does it do to you mentally to think it's not going away?
Yeah, it's heart-wrenching, and it's leading to burnout, I think, both from everyone in the staff. It's just, you know, frustrating.
So they're trying to be proactive here, make sure that people have time, that they can go away, that people are taking their vacations. They have help here for them. It's something we're seeing all across the country, but particularly in the South, as you know, Joe, where these numbers just have not been letting up. So we'll see what happens when this opens. Their best case scenario, 2 months from now, they'll be able to open that Holly Springs facility. But right now, they just say, we don't know. We have to watch and see where things go.
Chris Jansing reporting from Raleigh, North Carolina. Chris, thank you.
Capitol Hill is on high alert this morning ahead of tomorrow's rally supporting the January 6 rioters.
Capitol Police are preparing for potential violence. Even the National Guard is on standby.
Yeah, it's dubbed Justice for J6, and people are expected to protest the treatment of those who stormed Congress to stop the certification of the 2020 election. Rally organizers say around 700 people could be expected tomorrow. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Hake joins us now from the Hill, where those preparations are underway.
Hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning from the foot of Capitol Hill, where, as you can see, that 7-foot-tall steel fence is back up, ringing the Capitol building, this time ahead of that pro-insurrectionist rally scheduled to be held tomorrow afternoon, right here, really in the same area I am here on the south side of Capitol Hill. Now, this rally, we're hoping, shouldn't look anything like what we saw on January 6th. If you talk to our folks who cover online extremism, they'll tell you all the chatter about this is telling people not to come. You don't have the big speech by the president, and you won't have hardly anyone here at the Capitol. Congress is out. Members are being urged to stay away. There aren't any members speaking at this rally, only 2 Republican congressional candidates and some family members of folks who were arrested in the aftermath of that January 6th rally. Now, we do expect to hear from the Capitol Police Chief today, giving one final briefing on security preparations. But the hope upon hope is that this ends up being a peaceful protest Saturday. And by Monday, we're all talking about what an overreaction and what a cautionary tale this was to prepare in this way for what everyone hopes will be a peaceful rally on Saturday. Joe and Savannah.
Thank you, Garrett. The number of Republican lawmakers in the House who voted to impeach former President Trump is starting to shrink. That's because Ohio Congressman Anthony Gonzalez announced he is not seeking re-election. Of the 10 GOP representatives who voted to impeach former President Trump after the January 6th insurrection, Gonzalez is the first one to retire. In a statement, he wrote, "While my desire to build a fuller family life is at the heart of my decision, it is also true that the current state of our politics, especially many of the toxic dynamics inside our own party, is a significant factor in my decision." Gonzalez, a 2-term congressman, could have potentially faced an uphill primary battle, even though he won his seat in 2020 by a 26-point margin. But after his vote to impeach, the Ohio State Republican Party pushed him to resign and voted to censure him. The 36-year-old congressman has been serving since just 2019.
President Joe Biden is laying out his economic agenda while his infrastructure bills churn in Congress. Part of his plan includes raising taxes on the wealthy to strengthen the middle class and to give the IRS the tools to crack down on tax evasion among the richest citizens.
I'm not out to punish anyone. I'm a capitalist. If you can make $1 million or $1 billion, that's great. God bless you. All I'm asking is you pay your fair share. Pay your fair share, just like middle-class folks do.
NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now from Washington. So, Monica, break down the president's economic message here and what else we heard from him.
There weren't any new policy announcements here, Savannah. This was really the president reiterating the message he's had all summer long, trying to tout his Build Back Better agenda as it now faces some opposition even within his own party. It was really significant that both Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin were at the White House for face-to-face meetings this week, though it seems that both of them still have issues with the size and scope of the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill. But the president essentially asked a question framing, why wouldn't you want to pursue something like this given the moment? Here's his argument.
Choice is this. Are we going to continue with an economy where the overwhelming share of the benefits go to big corporations and the very wealthy? Or are we going to take this moment right now to set this country on a new path?
The president reiterated his plan and argued for many different platforms, from paid family leave to education, health care, elder care, and then again reiterating a message we heard earlier this week when he went out to the West Coast to survey wildfire damage in California and Idaho, and that is to do more on the urgent climate crisis. So taking all of that together, the president wants Congress to act in the coming weeks. But again, right now, they're still at a stalemate, Savannah.
Monica, I want to pull something up here to bolster something even further that you just said. This headline here, pretty blunt. Biden bombs with Manchin. This is referencing President Biden and Manchin meeting to talk about the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill, but it looks like it didn't go well. What is the White House going to do? What's their plan here? Do they have a path to get this key Senate vote?
And the White House has said from the beginning that Senator Manchin is a very important partner, somebody that obviously the president talks to very regularly behind the scenes. And sometimes he comes for these meetings in the Oval Office to really hash out the details. But exactly, it didn't seem that that changed anything. He still believes, the senator does, who's a critical vote, that that size is just simply too large. He wants something more in the range of $1 to maybe $2 trillion. So that is a major gulf that the White House needs to get across. And quite frankly, right now, there simply doesn't seem to be a place where the White House wants to budge. So what happens? And then when you realize it's not just Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema also has her concerns. This is really going to come to a head in the next 10 days or so. And that's why the White House didn't just give this speech yesterday for the American people to understand his agenda better, but it was really aimed at a handful of lawmakers. But it doesn't just put this piece of legislation in peril, and that's the issue that now a lot of other Democrats are worried about. It also could be a risk for the bipartisan infrastructure bill that already passed the Senate, but still needs to go back to the House before it gets to the president's desk, Savannah.
All right, Monica Alba from the White House, thank you so much.
Let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Which means it's time for Bill Cairns to join us. Hi, Bill. Happy Friday.
Oh, I got that Friday feeling.
So do we.
I don't have to work this weekend. There's no hurricanes. There's no, I know, it's like, woo! Throwing a big party. So let's talk about some positives here. We actually have rain coming into areas that need it. We're starting with a pretty dangerous fire day today because ahead of this rainstorm is going to be pretty windy, gusty conditions. So we are concerned today for some rapid fire spread. This is kind of a similar map that we've been showing you all summer long because it's just been so dry and so warm. But here comes the rain. It's already showing up on radar. Some of it is already pushed into Washington State. That's the green on the map. The white is the clouds. So this is the first significant storm of the fall season. It's a little early on the calendar. No complaints there. And some of this is even going to make it all the way into Northern California, which is exceptionally rare for September. So as we go throughout today, most of the rain will be on the coast, but some of it will push inland as we go throughout your Saturday into areas of even Northern California, as I mentioned. And it kind of stays cool and showery all through this region right through Sunday. We'll even see some snow reports, I'm sure, in the northern Rockies, and rainfall totals anywhere up to 3 to 4 inches. That's a lot of rain at the higher elevations. That's perfect in the Olympics and also through the Cascades. And then as we go throughout the rest of the forecast, still hot in Texas and Oklahoma. That's a broken record. Still some showers and downpours in the south. And as we look at your Saturday, a beautiful Saturday in the northeast. No problems whatsoever. A little bit lower humidity too. So overall, guys, a big thumbs up on this weekend forecast.
Look at that.
And you don't have to work. So there you
go.
You'll
be able to enjoy it. Exactly. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Phil. See you in a little bit.
Coming up, a woman goes missing while on a road trip with her fiancé.
Now her loved ones are desperate for answers.
You refer to her as the love of your life. Everything seemed to be happy. Why? Why are you silent?
We'll have the latest on the search for Gabby Petito, including new body cam video showing the couple after a fight just days before the disappearance. This is Morning News Now.
The desperate search for Gabby Petito is intensifying after her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, was named an official person of interest in the investigation.
Yeah, her family says they believe Laundrie knows where their daughter is, but he is not speaking to police on the advice of his attorney.
They're at the point that desperation is turning to anger. They know that the Landrys know where their daughter is, and they will not tell them. That's infuriating.
New body camera footage was released that shows a chilling interaction between police and the couple before Gabby went missing in late August. NBC News Now correspondent Dasha Burns has the latest updates.
Chilling new body cam video showing a police encounter with missing 22-year-old Gabby Petito and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie.
What's your guys' names?
Gabby.
I'm Brian. Gabby, Brian, okay. What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm just sorry. We've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
It was a long day. We were camping yesterday.
Authorities in Moab, Utah, pulling over the white van in which the two had been traveling the country since July 2nd.
Tell me what's going on.
You see, this gets worked up sometimes, and I try and really distance myself from her, so like I locked the car and I walked away from her.
A witness calling 911, reportedly seeing the couple fighting near their van on August 12th.
You want to tell me about those scratches on your face?
She had her cell phone in her hand. That's why I was pushing her away, because she wanted I locked the keys so I could walk away. I said, let's just take a breather and let's not go anywhere. Let's just calm down for a minute.
The argument allegedly becoming physical on both sides.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry. Be honest. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him? What were you?
Petito distressed, speaking through tears throughout the encounter.
We've been fighting all morning, and he wouldn't let me in the car before. He told me I needed to calm down. Yeah, but I am perfectly calm. I'm calm all the time, and he really stresses me out. And this is a rough morning.
Officials ultimately classifying the incident as a mental health crisis.
Let's get you in the van. Let's get you on your way, all right?
The couple agreeing to be separated for the night. Police taking Laundrie to a hotel that evening. Laundrie still a person of interest in the case after arriving in Florida in the van alone without Petito on September 1st. 2 days after her mother received the last text from her daughter's phone. Authorities growing increasingly frustrated with Laundrie's silence.
You've seen these sorts of cases before. What do these sorts of actions say?
Well, I think we can all come to a conclusion, right? But of what that appears to look like. It doesn't appear to look good for him.
Laundrie's attorney declining to comment, telling NBC News in a statement, intimate partners are often the first person law enforcement focuses their attention on in cases like this, regardless of whether my client had anything to do with Miss Petito's disappearance. On the advice of counsel, Mr. Laundrie is not speaking on this matter. Meanwhile, searches ongoing for Petito in Wyoming. Her stepfather traveling there, the family desperate for answers from Laundrie. NBC New York's Paisley Chang on the ground.
You refer to her as the love of your life. Everything seemed to be happy. You were on a cross-country trip with her, and suddenly you're silent. Why? Why are you silent? Whatever may or may not have happened, you need to speak up.
To South Carolina now, where a judge set bail at $20,000 for prominent attorney Alex Murdaugh. He appeared in court yesterday after surrendering. He's being charged with insurance fraud following an alleged plot to have himself killed so that his son could collect a $10 million life insurance policy. His defense attorneys blame an opioid addiction for his actions, which came months after the unsolved killing of his wife and another son. NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos joins us now with more on this case. Danny, the story seems to get more and more bizarre. Walk us through the charges that Murdaugh is facing and how the judge probably settled on that $20,000 bail figure.
Yeah, you just seized on probably the only knowable fact I can comment on in this case of complete twists and turns is that $20,000 bail in a case like this is pretty good lawyering. This case has a high likelihood of additional charges being brought. So this is the kind of case that a judge might be inclined to set bail higher, not only to ensure that the defendant appear at trial, but to protect the community. And the problem here is a lot of people in the community have a weird, coincidental habit of showing up dead. So I have to say that $20,000 bail, pretty good outcome for this defendant. But beyond that, there are very few knowables at this point. So far, the charges are really related to insurance fraud. And most folks should realize that if your insurance company thinks you're defrauding them, they will spend some money investigating it. So even here, you have a lawyer who may not have known that.
Yeah, and what's interesting about all this, too, is that Murdaugh's defense has essentially agreed to virtually all the accusations made against him in these charges. What kind of sentence could he face if ultimately convicted, and could his alleged opioid addiction have any impact on that?
Yeah, first, as a lawyer, sometimes your client has already made a lot of damaging confessions before you even get into the case. So you have to pivot, you have to do improv from there, and it doesn't do any good to deny something your client has already openly admitted. But it's hard to preview what the potential sentence would be in a case like this, because I suspect we haven't seen the full extent of the charges yet. These may be what prosecutors do. They charge what they know they can charge to begin with, just to keep the guy in stasis, and then continue the investigation and add charges on as needed.
And Danny, the alleged hired hitman in this scheme, Curtis Smith, also faced a bond hearing yesterday. What more can you tell us about that and the charges he's facing?
No, he's facing more than just insurance fraud charges. And again, this is a case where you may see additional. There you see him there looking very remorseful, as many defendants do once they're caught. But in this case, he could be looking at additional charges as well. I have to tell you, I mean, it's so hard to comment on this case because it seems like the investigation is only just beginning, and there are so many mysterious deaths involved that we may see additional charges being looped in, and it's possible this could be a web much larger than we originally suspected.
All right, Danny Cevallos. Danny, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Let's take a look at what's making news around the world this morning.
Matt Bodner joins us from Moscow. Matt, good morning.
Joe, Savannah, good morning. Let's start things off today in El Salvador, where anti-government protesters took to the streets this week to challenge various efforts by President Nayib Bukele to consolidate his power. One of the things they really targeted was a recent decision to make Bitcoin, or at least a form of Bitcoin, an official legal tender in El Salvador. Protesters attacked actually new Bitcoin ATMs that have been set up and set at least one of them on fire. Moving along now to the UK, the High Court has ruled that Prince Philip's will is to remain secret for at least 90 years. They explained that this ruling is meant to protect the, quote, dignity and standing of the Queen, and they explained that it has been common practice for more than a century now to keep royal wills a secret, even after those wills have been executed. And finally, a Dutch museum has unveiled a previously unknown drawing by Vincent van Gogh. The drawing is a study for one of the more famous works, Old Man, which depicts an old man in a chair with his head in his hands. The Van Gogh Museum director says that they will display the drawing since it reflects probably the way a lot of us feel right now as we're trying to work our way out of the pandemic. I can't really disagree with that. Back to you guys.
It's a self-portrait for everyone.
Yeah, yeah exactly. For the last year and a half.
We're all old men. Okay, thank you, Matt.
And coming up, fake vaccine cards on sale for hundreds of dollars.
Now the feds are stepping in to stop this booming black market. We'll show you what they found. You're watching Morning News Now. The world's largest cruise ship will set sail next year. Royal Caribbean's new massive ship will launch from Florida in March of 2022, sail to Barcelona and Rome. There's a trip for you. The ship can accommodate nearly 7,000 guests and has 8 neighborhoods. That's how big it is. They call them neighborhoods. They'll include the tallest slide on any cruise ship, a 10-deck high zip line, and something called a Wonder Playscape for kids. I don't know what that is. And get this, The ultimate family suite, the nicest room on board, even has an in-suite cinema. Dang. But staying in that room will cost you up to $80,000. So that was just a long way of me saying, Savannah, what are you doing next March of 2022?
All those details don't make me want to get on a cruise ship any more than I do right now.
You don't want to go on a Wonder Playscape?
Only if we can secure the ultimate family suite, whatever it was called. Then you never have to really leave it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Joe. Yeah. Now, sales of fake COVID-19 vaccination cards are booming, with some even going for hundreds of dollars. And Customs and Border Control saying they've stopped counting how many packages of these fake cards they're intercepting from overseas. NBC News reporter Kevin Collier joins us now for more on this. Kevin, good morning. So, I mean, there's so many questions here. What is going on here? How have prices jumped up so high? And where are most of these fake cards coming from?
Well, the big bundles that are being intercepted in mail, those are coming from China, according to a U.S. Customs and Border Protection representative I spoke with yesterday. All of them are from China, mostly Shenzhen, a few from outside of Shanghai. But that's internationally. Domestically, they're much harder to trace. You know, I mean, a lot of people could do this at home with a printer.
And now this messaging app Telegram, it seems that it's proving to be a popular site for sellers of these fake vaccination cards. I mean, how does this transaction typically go down? If you're somebody who is looking for one of these, which you shouldn't be, well, how does this even happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, Telegram is almost entirely unmoderated, unregulated. I contacted a few of the sellers on there. Each one wanted payment in Bitcoin. So, you know, good luck getting a refund if it doesn't work out. They quoted costs to me for a single card from between $70 and $200. And again, that's for a single piece of paper that's free and free for anyone who gets the vaccine. And each one asked me for a lot of specific personal information that would not be relevant to mailing me a fake vaccine card. My birthday, telephone number, stuff like that. You know, as anyone who's been vaccinated knows, you don't need all that. You just get a card. It's all handwritten. So that was very suspicious. Yeah. And each one told me some variation of a story where they needed it for processing, like they're going to register me with a doctor or the CDC, which is not how any of this works.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Kevin, what are authorities saying about all this and what's being done to stop it? And are people essentially getting scammed here, or are they actually getting these cards?
Well, CBP is still intercepting packages. FBI and other law enforcement periodically arrest people for using or dealing fake vax cards. But there isn't a real way to effectively track it nationwide, because this was not a card designed to be a vaccine passport or a vaccine identifier. There just isn't a system in place that would anticipate so many people wanting to claim falsely that they had been vaccinated.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much for your reporting here.
Thanks.
Now, as authorities try to deal with a record number of migrants trying to cross into the U.S., there's evidence of a troubling new trend. NBC News Justice correspondent Julia Ainsley has more.
The image is heartbreaking. 2 children abandoned at the U.S. border. A 2-year-old girl from Honduras and her 3-month-old baby brother spotted by Border Patrol agents along the Rio Grande River.
The 3-month-old was still in his baby car seat. A simple color caught their eye, and we're able to rescue these children.
It's just the latest instance of children abandoned during the record migrant surge, like these 2 young Ecuadorian girls thrown over a 14-foot-high border wall. And the 10-year-old Nicaraguan boy found by agents walking alone and crying in the Rio Grande Valley.
It is very taxing on us as agents to constantly see stuff like this happening.
The incident comes as Border Patrol reveals in August for a second straight month they encountered more than 200,000 migrants trying to cross the southern border. That's a 21-year high, though the total has dipped slightly from last month. Earlier this summer, we saw agents trying to keep up with the massive numbers just at this one bridge along the Rio Grande.
I do think that what we're dealing with is much different than what we've dealt with in the past.
It was in the hundreds when we were there. Officials say the number of migrants under that bridge is now in the thousands, and the Texas governor is demanding the Biden administration shut down 6 border crossings.
And as for those children you saw there, Border Patrol said thankfully they did not require medical attention, and they've now been taken into custody by Health and Human Services. Now, coming up, Christmas coming early, kind of. More people starting their holiday shopping early, and for good reason. We'll explain why it might make sense for you to do the same next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. Now, it may only be mid-September, but the holiday shopping rush is already here. NBC News senior business correspondent Stephanie Ruhle explains why you might want to start buying your gifts now.
Joe and Savannah, I know we're barely into back to school, but it has been a crazy year, and the holiday shopping rush is already on. And let me tell you, despite prices being up, consumers are out shopping and spending. Christmas is 100 days away. You hear it every year. Start your shopping early. But this time, with widespread supply shortages, it's for real.
So I want to get ahead of everything.
Jamie Stevens in Miami is a mother of 3 college-age daughters.
Do you normally shop this early? No, I think about it and procrastinate. But this year, I'm not procrastinating.
She and her husband run a battery distribution business and know firsthand how hard it is to get supplies because of how COVID has slowed the supply chains. Already, she's seeing some items not available.
Getting started early certainly makes me feel better because I know that I'm going to get what I want, or at least I'm able to make those last-minute changes earlier than December 20th.
Jamie joins an estimated 51 million holiday shoppers who plan to start buying gifts this month. That's up from 46 million last year.
If there are certain items that are on your wish list or your kids or family's wish list this year, you're going to want to scoop them up early to avoid potential out of stock issues.
Items likely to be in high demand but in low supply, anything with a computer chip, like video games and appliances. Artificial trees, ornaments, and wreaths are expected to be harder to find and cost more because of shipping delays. And those toys your kids are talking about?
All those hot holiday toy items, that's going to sell out the quickest.
And to limit crowds, retailers like Target are promoting deals over several weeks instead of one day, like Black Friday. But this year, if you see something you want before then, don't put it off until tomorrow. It might not be there. Now, guys, I'm not saying there won't be sales in the coming weeks and months, but this is not the year to wait on it if you see your favorite item on the shelf. But there will be sales coming up. If you can be flexible, you don't need something absolutely specific, you may find deals down the line.
All right, thanks, Steph. And let's stay on some news like this. It's time for our CNBC Money Minute, the biggest financial headlines of the day and why they matter to you. Christina Partsinevelos joins us this morning. Hey, Christina.
Hello. So it seems like there are some travel issues this morning for a lot of people flying on United. United Airlines was reportedly experiencing a massive outage, causing groundings across the United States. I heard even some planes heading to Canada were having issues, too. But it seems like it has now officially been resolved, according to the FAA. Users, if you check on Twitter right now, they've been complaining about issues with the app, the company's website, and this seems to have also affected planes on the ground as well. People had issues boarding planes. And so the airline apologized for the issue, and they said that they're going to work through it and quickly try to figure out what happened through their outage. Switching gears now, the global shortage of computer chips is getting worse, forcing automakers to temporarily close factories, including those that build popular pickup trucks. General Motors is the latest firm to extend plans to idle some of its North American factories as a result of the worldwide semiconductor shortage. The company said Thursday it will add to scheduled downtime at least 7 plants in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Sears is getting ready to shut down its last department store in its home state of Illinois. The company confirmed to CNBC it will shutter the shop on November 14th for good. Sears Holdings, which also owned Kmart, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in October 2018 and has since closed dozens of locations across the United States. Keep in mind, Sears was founded in Chicago in the 1890s and had about 700 stores when it filed for bankruptcy protection. Now, there'll be no more.
All right, Christina, thank you so much. Now it's time for one of our favorites. There it is. Good to know. Today we'll tell you about that emergency Apple security update, an alcohol ban on Southwest flights, and how you can make sure you never miss an update from your favorite Instagram accounts. Here is our friend Vicky Nguyen.
Good morning. Did you buy chicken in the last decade? You could be eligible to receive money from a $181 million class action settlement. The lawsuit alleges several poultry companies conspired to stabilize the price and supply of chicken in the U.S. That violates federal and consumer antitrust laws. You can check your eligibility and file a claim at the website Overcharged for Chicken. No booze while flying. Southwest Airlines is the latest carrier to announce it doesn't plan on bringing back in-flight alcohol until at least January 2022. The timeline is tied to the extension of the federal mask mandate on airplanes and in airports. American Airlines also made a similar announcement. Playing favorites. Instagram is testing a new feature which would allow users to select certain accounts whose posts you would see higher in your feed. It's being called, you guessed it, favorites. Apple issued an emergency software update earlier this week after independent researchers warned that an Israeli spyware company developed a tool to secretly take control of nearly any Apple device. If you haven't already, to update, just go to Settings, General, click Software Update, and install now. Deals on beauty and self-care products. Amazon will hold its first ever holiday beauty haul event in October. The online retailer says customers can score deals on popular beauty and self-care items during this time. Deals will be released every few days, so keep an eye out. For News Now, I'm Vicki Wynn, and that's good to know.
Coming up during this Hispanic Heritage Month, we explore a decades-long debate over the term itself. More on the journey for a community of 62 million people to harness their own identity and either own or disown being Hispanic. You're watching Morning News Now. We may be celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, but not everyone in the diverse community identifies as Hispanic. In fact, some are disowning the word altogether. NBC News Now correspondent Isa Gutierrez heard from both sides of this nuanced debate.
I am Latinx.
I am a proud Mexican American.
I'm a Cali Rican or Boricua.
I'm a first-generation Nicaraguan American.
I am a Latina.
I'm Afro-Dominicano.
I'm first-generation Puerto Rican and Guatemalan.
I'm Mexican-American.
I identify as Latinx Ecuadorian.
I identify myself as a Latinx. I also go by Latina, but I prefer to use Latinx because I like including everybody into the conversation. Hispanics, Latinos, Latinxes, we are diverse. We are more than just putting a label, putting a term on somebody.
My dream for Hispanic Heritage Month is that as many of us that can be made visible, there's all kinds of Latinos that look different, right? So how are we amplifying those voices and making space for that story?
In 1970, the term Hispanic was introduced in the U.S. Census to describe people who speak or are descendants of Spanish-speaking people. But according to a recent poll, only 1 in 4 Hispanic Americans prefer the term Hispanic.
I used to identify myself as Hispanic, and although I still associate with the people in the Hispanic community, I personally choose to identify myself as Chicana.
When I first kind of learned about Hispanic Heritage Month, I didn't feel like it belonged to me. I only say that because the voices that were being amplified weren't people that look like me. People honestly don't think I'm Hispanic at all. I remember specifically being in a professional team meeting and having a coworker say, you know, what we really need is to hire a Hispanic woman to work on our team. I had been on the team for 5 years. And so I looked at her because I thought it was a joke, and she literally wasn't joking. Over time, that's been the hardest part. This is not what people think of when they see Latinidad.
They expect somebody who has a bit darker skin, somebody who knows Spanish completely, no mess ups when they try to speak the language. And because of the way that I sound when I speak Spanish, the way I sound with an American accent, it was difficult for me to say that I'm Latina because it didn't really fit with me. So I would always tell people I'm half Mexican or I'm Hispanic.
Knowing the language conversationally, fluently, for me is not an important part of having a Latino identity. Naturally, being of that culture, of that heritage, words and sounds, and the way family members might speak can be a part of that identity. Like me personally, I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I learned it for myself out of an interest, and it's intentionally a bit of a broad category, but essentially if a group accepts you, that for me is like the threshold of being, I am part of this group.
This is a photo with some of my sisters. We all look very different from each other, but we also hold our heritage very close. And it's something that has really kind of unified us.
What drove me to go onto TikTok was mostly because I wanted to share my own life with people.
¿Cómo se dice car? Y yo pensé, qué fácil, es carro. No, es coche.
So the very first one that blew up, it was about when I was talking to my Spanish teacher and I used the word alberca for pool instead of piscina, which is the traditional Spanish word. And I ended up not getting a good grade because of it. And so many people reacted the same way, that they had their Spanish teacher fail them over those kinds of things. I couldn't believe that there was so many people out there who had experienced the same things as me. It was surreal.
I much enjoy being part of this amazing community full of different people that have, just like me, are in this process of understanding their identity and creating themselves.
I have all these conversations with my close friends who are still, and these are people in their 40s who are still on this journey of like self-discovery and am I Black, am I Hispanic, like what am I? I would like to think that I'm also helping them rewrite this story. For me, rewriting my story has not just been about accepting my identity, but it's also been about not allowing people to tell you who they think you are.
Now, part of the pushback against the term Hispanic, as Isa mentioned in there, is that it only refers to people from Latin America who speak Spanish or are descendants of people who speak Spanish, which excludes people from Brazil who speak Portuguese. Oh. All right. And that does it for this Hour Morning News Now.
Yeah, the news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.